What is a relationship funnel and how do you use it to grow successful business? Rachel Pedersen, also known as the Queen of Social Media, joins us today to help us answer this question.
Rachel is the CEO and owner of social media marketing agency, The Viral Touch, a full-time social media consultant and strategist, and founder of Social Media United, a leading online university for those aspiring to become successful social media managers and strategists.
In this episode, Rachel shares with us the biggest myth when it comes to making money online, the actual steps she will take to make her first $10,000 online if she had to start over, and the one thing she invested in most to create multi-million-dollar results for her and her clients.
This is an epic and real conversation with someone who's truly out there to serve others and take care of her family at the same time.
Make sure you listen in now. Welcome to Founders Connect podcast. We help lifestyle entrepreneurs to grow their business online and create a happier marriage.
Did you know that approximately 45% of marriages end up in divorce and 65% of all startups fail due to founder conflicts? Well, we're here to change that.
Each week we bring you an inspiring guest and practical tips to help you with business, relationships, and sustainable living. Now let the fun begin. Hi, I'm Cindy Pham.
And I'm Anthony Chansamuth.
And we're from Founders Connect.
Hey, welcome to the show. Today's episode is all about relationship funnels. And we've got Rachel Pedersen, who is the Queen of Social Media. What an epic title that is. She's CEO and owner of social media marketing agency, The Viral Touch, a full-time social media consultant and strategist, and founder of Social Media United, which is a leading online university for those aspiring to become successful social media managers and strategists. She's also a top social media marketer and consultant, worldwide viral sensation, leading authority on storytelling, a crazy mom, and
crazy.
Well, crazy in a good way. Has 3 beautiful children, and she's a wife to her supportive husband, Paul. Is that how I say it? Is it Paul?
Perfect. It's Paul. Awesome.
Beautiful. And you can connect with Rachel. Love it. You got to roll the tongue. And you can connect with Rachel at rachelpedersen.com. And we will obviously link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you for joining us on the show today, Rachel.
Thank you for having me. I think we're going to have some fun today, especially since I'm a crazy mom. Crazy.
So to start off then, how weird are you from the scale of 1 to 10?
We have to put it at a 13. I am so crazy. I love having fun. In fact, I just got off of a cruise, and when everyone was wrapping up at like 2 a.m. and everyone went to bed, myself and another person, we were like, let's go swimming. And so the pool was actually locked, like all the entrances to it, but she found a back door and we had to sneak through like a wedding venue, and we found a sliding door that was open, and we went and jumped in the pool at 2 a.m. and swam until 5 a.m. in this like infinity pool on the rooftop in the Bahamas.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. I love that story.
That is a great one.
Okay, 13, you're topping the charts here. If you had all the time and money in the world, Rachel, what would you do?
Not a darn thing different. I'm being so serious. The only difference would probably be that my house would be bigger. That would be the only thing. We still live in a 1,200 square foot townhouse, and we've never upgraded where we live so far. But I think in the next year or two, we will. If I had all the money in the world, though, I would probably get a bigger house and then also do a lot more mission work in other countries. I usually do 1 trip per year that's mission work. So, for example, I did India 2 years ago, Puerto Rico last year. I haven't figured out where I'm going this year for mission work, but I'd probably do a lot more of those trips with my kids and family.
I love that. And I think that's probably a side of you that's not so prevalent on social media is the mission work and your faith. I remember seeing a post that you did on your wall, which was about your faith, and I thought that's really powerful. So Cindy's a woman of faith. We are, part of that. So
definitely.
Just Cindy.
Well, but just how important is that, for you and your journey? Like, we're going to go back in a couple of moments to where you started, but, how has faith played a role in your life?
Oh my gosh. For me, it's been huge. I mean, I was raised around faith all the time. I'm actually the daughter of a pastor, and my mom led the music at our church. And so I was always kind of around. I feel like I was at church 5 days a week. And that was not necessarily a good thing growing up, because you kind of go on your own journey of discovering like what you agree with. But for me, there's been several key moments that it's been absolutely pivotal in my journey. So for example, like 4 years ago, this was the first time this has ever happened in my life, but I literally one day heard an audible voice from God. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I'm not someone who's like, oh, God told me this, God told me that. This was a very, very clear voice. And basically the call was to stop drinking. And alcohol was a huge part of my life. And when I heard that audible voice, it was so clear to me, like, this is a time to stop and completely give it up. And I walked away and never had a drink ever since. So that was a key part in my life, because I had to get real about, what do I want? Who do I want to be? How do I have fun without drinking? And I had to kind of rewrite what my identity was. And that was just one of the times where my faith has really come into play. But it's happened over and over and over again, where I've seen, for example, I'll feel like a nudge, just a little like nudge. You need to write this person a check. And you don't know why, but I always listen to it. And so, like, for example, we wrote this check to a person and we didn't even know that person. And the person just about fell over when they got it. And he said, my water heater just went out. And this is exactly the amount of what it was. It was just, it was so clear to me, like, over and over again, if I listen to those nudges, that I'm on the right track, you know?
Yeah,
That's
I love
very
that.
powerful.
Yeah, like how many times when we pay attention do we see those like coincidences or whatever they are, and like you think of, I need to be meeting this type of person, and then you go somewhere and that person shows up, or I need to speak to dad, and for my circumstance I hadn't spoken to dad for 2 years, and then one day it's like I get a call. It's really interesting how that stuff works.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But another thing that's been really helpful for me is I really like to go back and read Proverbs. Proverbs is really powerful because there aren't many places throughout the Bible that talk about like women and what women are and who we are and kind of the strength that comes from us. And Proverbs 31, not just the verses that most people know, but if you really dive into that chapter, it's a blueprint for being a successful entrepreneurial woman. And it gives you permission to work hard and achieve big things. So I love Proverbs 31 for that reason.
There you go, everybody. Get your Bible out and read that.
Exactly.
Action, that's it.
Exactly, call to action. So, what's your favorite quote, Rachel?
I've got so many. It changes all the time. Like, there are different quotes that sit in my mind at different points throughout the day. Like, literally, there's so many. I don't even know if I could choose one. One that I've been thinking about a lot lately is actually a quote from my mentor, Stacey Martino. And Stacey Martino shared with me that if you allow your flaws to naturally occur. So this, a good example of this is I was wearing white pants on this trip this week. And of course, true to nature, I spilled coffee all down my pants like within 5 minutes. So I've got this big brown splotch all over my pants. And I was like, I'm going to go change. And she said, no, when you don't try to change those things and when you don't try to step into perfection, you give others permission to be themselves. And that was big. And it's sticking with me, you know, this whole week.
That's huge. So did anyone comment on the coffee stain?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody noticed it. It was in like all the videos and pictures. And it was like, okay, well, that's just who I am. I spill all the time.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
So who's been like your greatest mentor, whether it's in life or career? And what's sort of one thing that you've learned from them?
I've had a lot of mentors over my career. Right now, I have mainly 5 that I rely on. Stacey Martino and Paul Martino have been big ones in my relationship. Myron Golden has been huge in me understanding wealth and value and sales. Russell Brunson was big for me in terms of marketing and understanding how to get a message across to impact the world. I would say those 3 have been some of the biggest mentorships that are like impactful. And this year is, even in 2019, is when I've been diving into what they teach more fully. And I'm like, this is already the best year of my life because I'm listening to my mentors and taking action.
Oh, taking action is the key there.
Well, as you know, we're all about relationships. So From the relationship point of view, what's kind of a key lesson you've taken from one of your mentors?
I'd have to go to Stacy because they specialize in relationships. And one of the things that they teach is that there's always a win-win. If you are still in a win-lose in a conversation, in negotiations, you're not done yet. Keep going until there's a win-win. That just like transformed the way I see every single conversation. There's not win-loses. You keep going because you're not done until you find the win-win.
There you go. Find your win-win.
Yes.
So you were a college dropout and you were a single mom on welfare. What did you learn from those experiences?
Oh man, so much. That time in my life, I think conditioned me to handle hard situations, hard circumstances. I mean, when I think back to that, it kind of feels like a blur a little bit because I've lived like 7 lifetimes since then. And there was this day I remember where I was walking through a blizzard to get to the bus that was going to take me 2 hours to get me downtown, to get me to hair school so I could finish this certification so I could hopefully start a new future. And I remember thinking, oh, I just want to turn back. I just want to go home. It's so cold. This is miserable. You can barely like see what's happening. And during that time, I just learned the power of putting one foot in front of the other and not giving up. And just, you have to just keep going. You just keep walking, even if it feels like it's forever away, because before you know it, you're going to arrive at your destination and be like, okay, it wasn't about the destination. It was about the one foot in front of the other, the entire journey.
That would be a really difficult thing to do.
I think that's like the title for your next book, One Foot in Front of the Other.
One step at a time.
Ooh, I like that.
You like
I
that
love
one?
that. Yes, I do.
So powerful.
I'll write you a royalty check.
All right, well, let's go into how you started your business. When did you sort of think, okay, that's the way for me to go, or that's something I want to try, and what was that journey?
Yeah, the very first foray I had into social media was when I was working full-time as a hairstylist. And one of my clients came in and she was talking about her husband's business. And I didn't really know a lot about business or marketing, but all I knew is that I knew putting up pictures on social media seemed to help my hair business. And so we started talking about social media and she knew like nothing about social media. So in that moment, I realized I don't know everything, but I can help her with what I do know. I became so addicted to marketing that I knew like this was my future. This is it forever. And so they invited me to their house to help them with some of their marketing. And they ended up becoming my first client. And from there, I grew with their company and started to secure clients on the side and ended up leaving the 9-to-5 world not too much long after that. But that was like what got me absolutely hooked.
Oh, okay. So what are the common myths or mistakes small business owners and founders make when it comes to making money online?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I could write a whole book about this.
Another one.
Yes. We're like coming up with all the book ideas for the next 5 years on this podcast. If I were to think of like some of the biggest ones, it would be that there's a lot of resistance. Offline business owners, they kind of fear the unknown of the online world, and it can absolutely be intimidating. But there's resistance towards taking that first step of going online. The thing is, like, we're literally in a gold rush. Right now, the online world is a gold rush, and there's no reason why you can't take advantage and why you shouldn't. If resistance is holding someone back, you're capping your potential. And the crazy thing is, this is a time where millionaires are being made for the first time and millionaires are becoming billionaires for the first time, all by harnessing the power of the internet. So why in the world would you not want to jump in and do it? That's one of the biggest mistakes I see, is that massive resistance. But another thing that happens too is people who were raised with a traditional understanding of marketing believe it's all about the brand. It's all about the logo. It's all about the branded videos that capture your mission statement. And the crazy thing about online is it's shifted the power from you and your brand to the consumer. Consumers don't engage with a brand online if they don't see themselves, their problems, their hopes, their dreams, their failures, and the solutions that they need in your product. So stepping away from the traditional marketing of your brand first and into, let's think about the customer first, is a massive step in the online world.
You are listening to the Founders Connect podcast, helping lifestyle entrepreneurs to grow their business online and create a happier marriage. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I see that a lot. And I don't want to say it's demographic. Like if you're talking to an older person, that's what they're going to believe, because I can see it kind of comes down to your own perspective on what brand actually means. And we interviewed a brand strategist previously, and he sort of talked about, 20 years in the business and what that means, and personal versus products, like all these conversations. But the key you've nailed there is, you got to really think about who you're talking to and what are they thinking? What do they care about? And that's how you can interact with them.
Absolutely.
So what's your proudest client or student story?
Ooh, there's a lot. I have to choose one.
Well, the first one that comes to mind. How about that?
One of my favorite stories is a client that we work with who, about a year before she worked with us, she was making about $30,000 a year as a personal trainer. And it was a really, really tough industry for her to break into. And over the journey of that first year, she transitioned from offline to online and grew from $30,000 a year to $300,000 a year. But we didn't have anything to do with that part of the journey. However, we took her on and we exploded her growth to, this is so crazy, $3 million in 1 year. So while she had done 10X herself, then we helped her to do 10X again the following year. And she's impacted and served 15,000 clients and customers around the world since then. So it's so amazing because from her, I see all of these success stories of people whose lives and dreams have just been changed forever. And every single day I get to see this is the impact that our marketing has had on her people. It makes me so proud every single time I see it.
Oh, that's excellent result, isn't it? Who doesn't want to be that? What? 10 times.
That's incredible. And I think you speak to the power of online, like just for impact. How else are you going to reach that number of people just in your local town? Like an internet does it for us. It's amazing.
That's so true.
Right. So I want to talk to you about just your recent entry or acceptance into ClickFunnels 2 Club. So congratulations, first of all, because I know that you're like one of not too many people who've done that. And that means that you have made a funnel that has made over, I think it's $1 million through ClickFunnels. So when going from like zero to replacing your income, because you talked about you did that when you were at the hair salon, what were your sort of key business lessons during that time? Like what did you learn about going from, I don't know anything, I'm just posting images on Facebook or whatever, to now I'm able to leave my job and create a business from that? Like what was the first lesson there for you?
Yeah, so there was one step that I haven't mentioned yet on this, and it's that when that client came to me and started talking about marketing, I actually left the hair salon almost immediately and went and tried to find a job in marketing. And I did find one. And I was nervous that I wasn't going to find a job in marketing because I had no degree, no credentials, nothing that would set me up for success in the marketing world. But I went for it and just decided to make it happen. So I started working in marketing for a business, and I quickly started noticing that people were asking me, I noticed you're doing great in marketing. Do you think you could help my business on the side? And so I started to kind of realize this is a thing. I think like I can actually secure clients. And I didn't realize how fast it was going to happen, but it took me 6 months from the time that I secured my first client outside of that initial client that got me started. It took me 6 months to replace my income from my 9 to 5. And so 6 months after I started securing clients on the side, I replaced it and left my 9 to 5. And then just a few months later, I decided to replace my husband's income and bring him home. Right. And so he was next. And all of this happened. I went full time in this business in April of 2016. So we're coming up on 3 years now this April. And everything has continued to grow so much. I actually accepted my first 2 Club award last year at FHL, and I just got the email acceptance for my second 2 Club award this week. Woo! And so I'm going to accept that. And I'm hoping that, next year it's 3 to 5 2 Club awards, not because it's about the money. It's more because that means that's how many lives we've impacted, that we've been entrusted with that much revenue.
So for someone who's listening to this going, okay, I'm still in a 9 to 5, I want to try and get out there and do something. So what would you say the first 30 days, what should they be doing like to get a business started?
The very first thing that you need to do is you need to start securing revenue. You do not need a website, a logo, a brand standard, professional photos, a highly cinematographically, I don't even know that word. Anyone can start a business. You don't even have to be a genius, but you don't need all of those things in place that our society would lead us to believe. You don't need a small business loan. The first thing you need to do is recognize, what can I do to generate revenue to get me out of my 9-to-5? And build up that revenue so it replaces your income. So then when you leave, you can start to kind of say, okay, now what do I really want to do? And I think that's why I'm so passionate about social media management. It's a great way for anybody to ramp up and leave their 9-to-5, double their 9-to-5 income. You know, it's such a fast way to grow with a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
That's the very first thing I would do.
So you were like knocking on doors and going to local businesses and saying, hey, you probably want to be on this online thing.
Yeah, look at her.
I tried that a little bit, and I really didn't do well with the in-person market, because I think there's still a massive chasm between the offline world and the online. So when you're first starting, I actually don't recommend trying to convert the offline world people into online, because there's such a great divide still. I actually recommend looking for the low-hanging fruit of people who have already accepted that online is the future and online is the way, and finding how you can serve those people. So I personally used LinkedIn and started booking discovery calls, and it took me a little bit to find my groove, but I first reached out to the low-hanging fruit.
That's very cool. Very smart, because you're not trying to convince someone who's psychologically not there yet. Okay, so then you went to the 1 comma to the 2 comma. So what's the difference between a 1 comma funnel and then a 2 comma funnel? Like, what's in terms of psychology of the entrepreneur?
The biggest thing that surprised me was how much your personal growth helps or hinders your ability to get into the 2 comma. I thought it was all just about business and hustle and so on and so forth. It's not at all. It is all about personal growth, about your willingness to work on your marriage, your relationships with your kids, your relationship with your physical health, your sleep, the way that you eat, whether or not you work out. That was really surprising to me, because anybody can grow a multi-6-figure business, but anyone who's not willing to work on themselves as people, as leaders, as CEOs, it's very difficult to get to 7 figures in revenue. And it's impossible to get to 8, 9 plus without doing that work of looking at your triggers, your issues, your so on and so forth. That was shocking to me.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say that, because when I'm looking and studying, some of the greats in the industry and whatever else, a lot of them don't really talk about tactics. Like, they really are looking at the perspective of who are you, and, how are you showing up, and what are your limiting beliefs, and what are the things that are getting in your way? Who are your mentors? Who is your tribe? All these things that have nothing to do with go to lead pages or ClickFunnels and click on this button. Like, it has nothing to do with that.
Isn't that crazy? That was really interesting for me, because when you watch people who are mostly touting tactics, the chances are they have not built more than a multi-6-figure business. It is a common theme or a common thread with very successful entrepreneurs. They've stopped looking at the tactics and they've started caring about the bigger picture of who you are and what you bring to the world.
So what's a relationship funnel, and why my listeners want to create one?
Do they like being successful? Then yes, they want to hear this. So the relationship funnel is huge. It's different because we're so conditioned to think about like sales and revenue and that being like the bottom line of our business. But I had this theory years ago that I could out relationship anyone's cost per acquisition. Meaning, if I could build true relationships with influencers, peers, mentors, and just really go deep in relationships, that I'd be set up for success. And I truly believe this because I've watched it happen in my own business. The stronger your relationships are, the further it's going to propel you in your business. And so as much as your actual sales funnel is important and the products you offer are important, the relationship takes you so much further, because where there's relationship, there's grace and there's trust and there's rapport and the ability to take things so much further. Whereas when you're going into a market where there's no relationship, there's no trust, there's no grace. It's all about what's the price, you know?
Definitely. Very important relationship.
All about relationship.
Yes.
Always.
All about it.
So what do you need, like someone listening to this going, okay, that sounds amazing, Rachel, but what do I need to start a relationship funnel? Like, what's that?
What does it look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a template you can get in the ClickFunnels marketplace. I'll just tell you that. It's something you think about, like all the people that you meet. And I think sometimes, I think it's human nature to kind of discount the people that we meet because it's like, well, what does this bring to me and my business today? That's kind of a common thing, especially when you're trying to start a business. But I'll never forget like some of the relationships that I made, even just sitting at Starbucks. And for example, one guy that I met at a Starbucks 3 years ago is about to become a client of our agency, but we've just stayed in touch. Even though he wasn't going to become a client of mine 3 years ago, we just kept the relationship going. And now he just acquired a business that needs our services. We never could have imagined that that would happen, but we just kept the relationship intact.
You are listening to the Founders Connect podcast, helping lifestyle entrepreneurs to grow their business online and create a happier marriage. Now back to the show.
You have a question on relationships? I just love that Starbucks story. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, it's great actually.
I think it's about not seeing every interaction as a transaction, right?
Correct.
It's like, we're just there to be who we are, to find the people that resonate with who we are and our message and whatever it is and connect with them. Like that's something gets lost with all this, funnels and marketing talk and internet speak. It's kind of like, well, if we look at those who are doing well, what we normally see is they're like circles of friends, right? You see like, Rachel's hanging out with Alex and whatever, and these guys are like, they're just having a great time and they all have like building together. And then you see our groups in that. So it does come back to those relationships.
So talking about that, what's your best networking tip?
Ooh, don't talk about your business. Don't talk about sales. Don't talk about what you even do. Like if you can build a relationship first and foremost on personality and stories and connection, it goes so much deeper. There are people I've known or who I had known for years who are like, I don't even know what you do, but I know that you're really fun. And so when you show up, I'm like, oh, I got to be around her because we're going to talk about funny things and she's going to have a crazy story or a crazy idea. And it doesn't mean that that creates sales, except that now we're building that relationship and it's not about the sale. That opportunity comes up when there's a need. And there's definitely an element of trust in the relationship funnel. You're just trusting that relationships always win. And I'm here to tell you, like, they do.
That's awesome. So if you were to start again from scratch, so something happened and you had to like, tomorrow, Rachel, you're doing it all over again. What would be the steps you'd take to make your first 10K online?
Ooh, the very first thing I would do would be to go on to LinkedIn and start prospecting clients, start reaching out aggressively. If I had 30 days to hit the 10K, I would take on 3 clients and work with them for a week and get results in a week, whether it's just optimizing their pages, helping them to create graphics. Maybe you can't get stellar results in a week, but do what you can to show that you're a person of integrity, that you serve, that you do what you say you'll do, and get video testimonials from those 3 people. Now, then you're going to turn around and use those video testimonials to help you to secure more clients. Using LinkedIn, you can ask those 3 people to connect them with their networks. And I would just repeat that process, as simple as that is, over and over and over again until I hit 10K, which I think would happen in 3 weeks. So,
oh God, 3 weeks.
You've got to do the work. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. What was the moment when you knew your partner was the one that you want to be for life?
Ooh. Okay. So I don't know if you guys know our story.
No, tell us.
All right. So my husband and I were being set up and I knew and he had no idea. So we both went to a Bible study, which I was a single mom at the time. I had my daughter Dakota already and she was 3 years old. And we were being set up by someone who is now my sister-in-law, but she was my friend at the time. And she's like, you've got to meet my brother-in-law, Paul. And I was like, okay, I'll come. And I'd already stalked him on Facebook, looked him up, like, what is he up to? What does he do? And he had no clue who I was. And that evening we met and we went out to Perkins with everybody and stayed out so late, just like laughing and having so much fun. And he asked me out that night. And It was just a couple days later that we had our first date. And that very first night, I was like, I think this is it. Is this for real? Like, I have this weird feeling something's different. And apparently he went to his dad, and he had never believed in like love at first sight or anything like that. But he told his dad, I think I just met the one. And we both had that feeling. So we met at the Bible study. A couple days later, we had our first date. A week after we met, we went out to dinner, and I was like, my heart is exploding because I am in love with him. And I don't know how to explain it. I've never experienced this fast, or I didn't believe in that. But as soon as the server left our table, he goes, I'm in love with you. And I was like, oh, I know, I am too. And he's like, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And I was like, I know, me too.
Oh,
and
wow.
So we knew, I think immediately, but every single day that we spent together after that was confirmation. And we were going to get married in like 6 months. But when we told our friends and our family, they were freaked out because they're like, you just met each other. You can't get married in 6 months. But we knew without a doubt. And so after 12 days of knowing each other, I called him up one night and I said, you know, everyone's really mad that we're getting married in 6 months. I was just going to wait for their sake. Do you want to get married tomorrow? And he's like, do it. So we did. We got married 13 days after we met, and the rest is history. We've been married for 5.5 years, and 2 babies later, several businesses later, here we are.
13 days. That's book number 3, Rachel.
Yes. You got to stop. I'm going to owe you guys so many royalty checks. This is me crazy.
You just great stories, girl.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are like some activities or common interests that you both have that you've developed that bring you closer together?
So some of the things we love to do, we love games. We are huge game fanatics. We have a whole gaming closet here in my office. We love like Risk. We love, just so many games. Like I could play games all day. It's one of my favorite things to do. We also both love video games. So we like play Mario Kart together and challenge each other. And it's cool because we're both really good, like really good. We'll dominate the competition anywhere. So if we play online with our friends, it's so cool because we're sitting there, we're constantly getting either first or second and just wiping everyone out. And that like increases our attraction to each other because it's just like, yes, we dominated the couple. So we love video games. We're also big movie buffs. Like we love watching movies. I love movies, not just for the movie, but for the conversation that we have after every single movie. We sit and we go back and dialogue. What did you like about that? What did you find weird? What did you think about that dynamic between the lead and, his mother? And so it's not just the movie, it's the conversation that it sparks. We also both really enjoy traveling, but we have different ideas of what travel looks like. So that's kind of interesting. I am a city girl. I like air conditioning in hotel rooms and sitting inside, and he loves being down by the beach, no connectivity, and that sounds horrible to me. So those are some of our big common interests that we have. We both love family more than anything. Like we love to be around our families. And so whether we're all inside here with our kids or going and doing an activity with the family, that is just a huge part of our fabric of our lives,
That's so cool. I love how you find ways to create. You do things together, but then you sort of look at like the movies, for example, and you kind of look at, well, how can we then turn that into a conversation? And that sort of love that you pinpointed. That's the thing that I actually like more about that than the movie itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you mentioned that communication is the biggest challenge you face with running your business and maintaining a healthy and happy relationship with your husband. How do you work through that?
Doing the hard work. There's not some like magic tool. It's really crazy because we've now invested a lot of money into understanding relationships and communication. That's been probably the most challenging thing. And it's kind of crazy because it's never really done. Like it's continually a work in progress. And so, we'll get some things worked out and then all of a sudden we'll hit a moment where it's like, oh, there's something we need to do work on here. Anytime there's like resistance or something that doesn't flow, we know that there's something bigger preventing it. It's rarely about that topic. And so I'm really thankful that we have so many mentors who push understanding communication, understanding relationships, and they prioritize our marriage over whatever that fight was. So they are on both of our sides, which is really, really cool. and help us to get united. So it's hard work. That's kind of what it goes back to. You have to do the hard work and discover, like, oh, does this stem from something in my childhood? Does this stem from an experience that I had? And being committed constantly to figuring out what those things are. Like I said, there's not an easy button. I wish there was. I would have pushed it already, but it's lots of commitment and consistently improving together.
So out of the both of you, who's the best listener? Who's the better listener?
No questions asked.
So who's the better listener?
He's an amazing listener. I'm okay. I'm not great at listening. So
I think same here.
But I think, we kind of mirror that.
Same here.
Yeah. But it requires, as you say, Rachel, it requires a lot of kindness and empathy. And, when things go wrong, like, you got to remind yourselves you're on the same team. And sometimes you have to give space to each other. And for me, I have to process, where Cindy can just continue the conversation, where I'm like, no, I need to breathe, need to think about it. Then I'll come back with my thoughts,
Yes.
We have to learn to navigate the different styles of communication as well. So that's really important.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to just wrap up now. What about we just answer this one of your favorite questions, Cindy?
Oh, is it? Are you sure? I thought it was the intimacy one. Yeah. What's the book?
You're going to ask her. I don't know if Rachel's ready to respond to that question.
It seems like it. She's laughing already.
I can handle any question that is thrown my way.
What's your best tip for building sexual intimacy?
Ooh, I have to quote my mentor, because this was the best thing I ever heard. A sex problem is rarely a sex problem, and it cannot be solved by a sex solution. So anytime that there's like a hiccup or resistance in your intimacy, and I think we're talking about sexual intimacy, so if not, I just turned it that way. But the biggest thing about building that is recognizing that it rarely has to do with actual intimacy, because intimacy is built in everything that comes before sexual intimacy. So that was kind of crazy for me. Every single thing that you do throughout your day is what builds intimacy, and the way that you communicate, the way that you interact, the way that you handle things as a win-win, that's what determines intimacy. And sexual intimacy is just a byproduct of intimacy that's built within a relationship.
There you go. Did everybody learn anything there? Definitely.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay, last two questions. First question, what's one book or resource that's rarely mentioned that has made an impact in your life?
Ooh, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, one of my favorite books. And every time I say it, people don't take me seriously. And I'm like, no, you do not understand. This book will redefine the way that you see business. So it's one of my absolute favorites, and people don't read it. They're like, what does a book about war have to do with business? Everything. Hands down. That's my favorite.
Adding that to the reading list.
Okay, so after all said and done, what would you want to be remembered for?
Loving people. That is, I want people to say, it didn't matter what she did or what I did in life, but the way that Rachel interacted with me, whether it was one-on-one or through a screen, oozed love. And I felt loved for the first time, or for the first time in a while. I want people to remember me as just loving them.
You're oozing me with love.
Love it. Thank you so much. We really want to appreciate you for the love you did bring onto our show today and to our audience, and for just the joy and the energy you bring into the world, because you just light up by being you, by doing the coffee stains, and by doing, the things that you do, playing games, and your relationship with Paul and your kids as well. So thank you so much, Rachel, for being you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, you guys. This was awesome.
For everyone else, we'll drop links to Rachel's site. Again, it's Rachel Pedersen. That's PEDERSEN.com. And you can go there. You can check out all her socials. She's like crazy on there. Just don't know how she does it. I think she has a team. Might have, I don't know, but just really, really cool. And if you want to learn about social media, then definitely check out her online education course, Social Media United. Is it still called Social Media United?
It still is called Social Media United.
That's it. All right. So that's it. And we will see you guys later. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Alrighty, so there was our awesome conversation with Rachel Pedersen, the social media queen. Cindy, what was your key takeaway?
Key takeaway is there should always be a win-win. So if there's a win-lose, you have to go all the way until you get a win-win and don't give up.
And that's so important when you're in a marriage and also in a business partnership, because you're going to have conflicts. And so it's about working that stuff out, isn't it?
Yes, in all decision making.
So do we have any situations where we went through win-lose to win-win?
I don't know. Can you think of one?
Yeah, I'm sure that we have many. And it's about, I guess the question, when you hear that and think of that, is that a compromise or is that something different that Rachel's talking about?
Well, it depends on what it is. And the thing is, even if it's a compromise, both of you are happy with a compromise. It's not just a one happy compromise side.
Yeah, that's a good point, because typically a compromise means one person is losing out in some way, right? But if there's both sort of reaching a middle ground, then that's important. Cool. Great one, Cindy.
So what did you learn, my darling?
So Rachel has, well, definitely from a practical point of view, what do you do if you start from zero and you wanted to make $10,000 in the next 90 days? He gave us practical tips on how you would do that with an online business, which is really great. And the other one is just the role of mentors in her life. And, you know, she's the type of person that has got her success because she actually went and invested into mentors, even when sometimes maybe she didn't have the money, but she actually went and said, okay, I don't know this stuff, so I actually need to work with someone who knows what they're doing to help me get me to the next level. And she continues to invest in these mentors that help her along the way.
So in that case, always self-improve yourself. Always learn.
That's right, because it's all about growth, isn't it?
Definitely. If you're not growing, you're dying.
There you go. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, that's a point to ponder on.
Ciao.
Have fun. Are you thinking about leaving your job, taking control of your own destiny, and turning your passion and experience into a side hustle or full-time business? Well, check out our new Corporate Escape Plan PDF guide.
It's free and you will learn the top 10 challenges for new entrepreneurs and what you can do to overcome them. Just head over to foundersconnect.co/escape to grab the free checklist now.
Yeah, do it.
In our next episode, we're asking,
how do you take the skills and knowledge you have and make them into something profitable? Thanks for tuning in. And remember to live passionately,
purposefully,
and confidently. Till next time, ciao!